Gordon, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is my dad. He's my cinematographer tonight. The first time he's seen the movie in the theaters, so yay.
Well, questions for Lindsay before we...
Yeah, any initial questions?
Yeah. It's better to come from you than me.
Do you have VHS for sale?
Oh, not anymore, unfortunately. I did have, like, when the movie first came out, like, special hand-painted, you know,
Oh my God.
special edition ones. There were, like, 30 of them. But Whammy Analog in LA has offered to do a VHS release next year.
Amazing.
Yeah, so and I'm sure they'll mail it to people, so.
There's something for sale, though, right?
Oh, yes, yes. I brought, well, I have about, like, 10 limited edition $20 signed posters, because I printed these a long time ago with my producer, Erica. And she, this is the last of them, and I've signed some of them, so, you know, $20, no big deal.
It's my birthday, I'm getting one.
You're gonna get one, don't worry. So, it was my birthday too not that long ago, Leo's forever. Yay! Roar! Poster for that girl. Yeah.
So this is co-written with Chris Shields. Right?
Yeah.
It's also, is that who's starring in the film too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he plays Charlie. He's really nothing like Charlie. You know, he really wants me to make that known because people come up to him expecting him to be an asshole. So, and he's not. So I wrote that character the way he was. So, because I think dumb guys are cute. So, yeah. And yeah, Chris, if you are familiar in like Orlando and Tampa area and Deltona even, he does a one-man show called Mr. Transylvania, so a very like Andy Kaufman Dracula screaming and such, and that's what inspired me to do like for the ones who saw the behind-the-scenes thing before this, you know, Pandora's Talkbox stuff was inspired by him, and you're the first audience who have ever seen that before the actual movie, so I'm curious how you will evolve over time.
Yeah, I kind of wonder too how people felt about seeing that. All right, there's miniature sets, there's large set, very few outside on location stuff. How do you visualize that and explain that to people, like how the final, you know, version's gonna look like, and do you know what it's gonna look like in your head if you're like, you know, designing it, I guess.
Well, it was weird, like the kind of evolution of it was I thought the whole movie was gonna be shot on VHS originally, like shot on video, you know, all the way. But going to grad school, their VHS camera wasn't in good shape, you know, so that was strike one. Yeah, even during one of the actual shooting of the VHS scenes, we had to, you know, stall and get a friend's VHS camera because it broke in the middle of the thing. So, and I liked more like the juxtaposition of like VHS is the memory and kind of like the impression of the past, and whatever we're watching now, the latest technology, and it was EX3 Sony, that could, you know, and I'll never get my hands on something that expensive again. It's all grad school money, so that I can't afford to do that. So, and yeah, just I don't know, the mixed media, kind of different formats was a big Chris Shields inspiration. He did that in one of his short Sex Machine 2025 that's on the Blu-ray, you know, that kind of used 16mm film against, you know, regular video. And
there's a couple of clips in that in the behind the scenes too, right?
yeah, I cut that last night in a frenzy, so and I still have to add everyone else's shorts in there. It's just not Lindsay Denniberg shorts on the Blu-ray, so, but that behind the scenes doc is in there, and the What's Inside Pandora's Talkbox TV pilot, which is like a spin-off to Video Diary following Michael, you know, and his family, and I'm his sister, and my dad plays my dad, so Mr. Cinema with an S. So he's also Michael's father. So yeah, so the universe keeps expanding, and Killer Makeover is the next big one. It's coming out 2025. You saw the trailer for that. Yeah. Also a recent trailer, so I'm gonna roll.
Is that a feature as well? And then there's a series, right? Like
yeah, it's weird. The What's Inside Pandora's Talkbox was Killer Makeover shot before it, but like that one came out first because we kind of needed more money to get another camera to finish Killer Makeover, you know, because it was definitely like made for like $2,000 or something, you know. So, and I really needed a duplicate camera of the one we shot with the green screen on for some sort of consistency, you know. And was it Emily Esperanza of Wretched Nobles? They were like a screening kind of curation project that went on for years, and they were offering a $500 grant for a short film idea. So I pitched What's Inside Pandora's Talkbox, just one episode. She gave me the money, and I got the camera, and then I kept adding stuff, and now it's 10 episodes. And that's showing at Whammy this year. So.
Cool. Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Any questions for you guys?
No question.
Sure.
It was very funny, and you got lots of laughs, and I was just wondering, because you had a collaborative writing experience, like when you watch it back, what are your favorite moments in the movie, or what lines are you really proud of?
It's funny, it's like objectively, like I'll look at the Letterboxd reviews a lot, you know? And I've seen at least 5 people just start their review with like, this shit is ass and titties for people with taste. With various different spellings of titties too. So like, and Chris always tell me like, oh yeah, you wrote that one. That was like the first line you ever wrote. Like, yeah, that tracks. Because there's so many different drafts and iterations of it. Like, it's changing up until and even during shooting. So it's like the final script is somewhere in that ether. So, and yeah, I'm trying to think my favorite. I really enjoyed writing with Chris the moment where they meet again when he's reincarnated. That we always talk about as our core nucleus of the movie, and we would kind of role play those moments and everything, and then it would go on from there. So, and like write anything that was possible to film. Like there was a scene where I wanted him to live in an actual open grave. We didn't have the money for that, so or the time, so that didn't happen. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I think those are my favorites.
It seems like the soundtrack was pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your favorite soundtracks for movies?
Well, what is it? Cemetery is the band that plays in the middle of the punk band in the movie, and that is Danny Gallego's band, and he passed away last year, unfortunately. And so we've been doing a lot of memorial stuff for him with the film and all that. And I love seeing his old scenes. So he does the main song that you see more in the trailer, like the state board, like, you know, trapped, da 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 da. And the shadows connected to the light song at the very beginning was actually written by the actor who plays Adam in the opening scene, Theodore. He goes by the stage name Theodora, where he takes on like a feminine, you know, persona. And he wrote that because like the song I originally had planned from another friend, like they said they didn't want me to use it anymore, you know. So he, you know, graciously is like, I'll do it, and it came out great. So, and Bestial Mouths, all the heavy goth girls screaming and wailing, connected to Danny Gallegos from Cemetery. His band was playing a show, and they were there. They were like the big headliner, you know. And I just went up to Lynette, you know, of Bestial Mouths, like, I love your music, can I use all of it? You know, she's like, of course. So, and that's usually like how I get music. Like, it's usually like just going to shows, seeing friends and their bands and friends of friends, you know, and people who are cool with letting me use their music because I have no money. So.
Like your personal, like Return of the Living Dead soundtrack. Like, what are soundtracks that you liked?
Oh, my personal.
From like,
my first CD I ever bought, and first musician I ever loved was Danny Elfman for the Edward Scissorhands soundtrack. I would listen to that over and over, and the little Tom Jones song they had on it. So, yeah, Danny Elfman's always been my favorite, and Beetlejuice, and you know, anything he's been involved with, and of course Oingo Boingo and all the stuff with his brother Richard Elfman, you know, Forbidden Zone. Definitely, those are my favorite music parts. When it comes to like the kind of noisy, hardcore punk stuff, I love that because it's like, it brings me back to my time in Orlando or any of the punk scenes I've been a part of, you know, because it's all them. So like the movie Chances, we did the trailer, is all local punk scene music. Yeah, we're kind of trying to go for like a Downtown 81 movie, so.
What's the difference between the two communities, Orlando and Chicago? I mean, there's definitely some crossover between people in both places, right?
Yeah, at least like 3 or 4 of my friends from Florida that I worked with in either film or music, like on their own terms, showed up in Chicago within the 10 years I was there, and we would work together again. And they, like my friend who was from New York said all the Floridians who moved to Chicago, the one thing they had in common was that we were slow getting out of cars. And that was the one thing he pointed out. I'm like, it must be true, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. So.
I never got that one myself.
Yeah, and we were talking, you know, like we've lived in the same house at some points, not at the same time.
Damn, yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of Chicago transplants with Jody Mack and other, like going past like into 15 years realm. You know, like all the artists kind of sticking together. And like,
so isn't there like a photo on the fridge of that house that changes when people move in? Do you remember this thing?
Oh yeah, Jimmy made a film about it actually.
No shit.
And it's in the What's Inside Pandora's Top Box, I think like one of the first episodes. And I'm in it.
I was in one of those photos.
You were, it might have been you. I know we have a photo of Tommy Heffron, if anyone knows Tommy Heffron. So.
He hasn't been here yet since we've been open.
all the artsy Chicago people. It's weird with the crossover. At some point, we can't handle the cult though, and we leave. So.
Have you ever felt like a community like that Chicago community, where there's just like all these visual artists that are willing to work on these you know, crazy movies and small budgets or no pay or 15-hour sets or whatever?
Well, yeah, Video Diary was definitely like, you know, other than the 2 lead actors, you know, because they were coming in from New York, you know, trying to supplement their income. We were shooting it over summer, like everyone worked for free. We paid for food and all that, and transportation if anyone needed, like, you know, a subway card or anything like that, or gas money. But like everyone was volunteer on their time, donating their junk, you know, bringing back Danny again. Because again, most of the horror movie posters that you saw were his. You know, he was very much like, as my collaborator Chris calls him, like the hobgoblin or the ghoulie of the set. You know, he was very much a human ghoulie. So, yeah, I lost track.
Anyone else?
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting how you had kind of like a Y2K aesthetic with this film. It kind of seemed like you were having like this bridge into the digital world with a lot of the aesthetics. I was wondering if was a lot of that intentional, or like having like this mini DV kind of look to it?
I really don't know. Like, it was just experimenting. Like, I put chances a lot in there because that was like the last film I really made before this one. And that was the exploring of different formats and everything. That we shot that on like 5 different cameras, from like Super 8 to flip video at the time, and VHS and high 8. So with this, I don't know, like, I don't think it was the first, like, since I wanted to shoot on VHS, that was definitely like leftover, you know, residue with all the effects, because most of the VHS effects that everyone kind of like says, oh, these are vaporwavy. Like, I knew what vaporwaves was when I made this. But I really love vaporwave. They're like my people. So, like, you were doing it too. So, yeah, it was just a weird kind of like, I remember some friends making fun of me because I was so into like the crappy, I love crappy looking film, you know, like cloudy looking, distorted artifact stuff.
I did play Doris Wishman last night.
I know, I heard. So, that lady. So, I love her. I love Nude on the Moon?
Nude on the Moon, yeah.
And what is the one, what is it, Let Me Die a Woman.
Yes.
That one's a heavy hardcore one. So.
Yeah, they get harder, like more hardcore as they go,
Yeah. Doris Wish Fulfillment Wishman. So, or Wishmaster Wishman.
A lot of Florida in there.
Oh, is she from Florida? Oh man.
Nudist camps.
I live where the mermaids are. So, Wikiwachi.
So this film's got, it's weird calling it a film, video. This feature length thing.
It's a video diary.
So. It's got like an interesting life. It's like, you know, it's 12 years old, but it doesn't feel, it's just like, it just finds new audiences all the time, right?
It's weird because it's built out of nostalgia, I think. Like, but like not like just like nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, like because that was like the story format, you know? And I feel like all of Gen Z is really embracing it, which I love. And yeah, because like when it came out, it had a little, as Chris put it, had little rumblings, and I just didn't have the money to like, you know, push it to other festivals or anything. So.
But like I think at Chicago Underground we showed it just a couple years ago, right? Wasn't it like?
Oh, you know what? It was during the pandemic. Because they showed it in 2012, and then when the pandemic happened, they were doing their virtual, you know, kind of like Renaissance. You know, let's revisit some old classics. You know, and then me and Chris did a little Q&A for them. So.
But did AGFA just pick it up like last year or something?
Yeah, the big thing I always want to mention, Christina Casioba. She worked at 92Y Theater in New York. Way back when the movie first came out, and she was, and I always like to say she looks like a young Agnes Varda, so I immediately gravitated towards her. And she just loved the movie and was curating a bunch of stuff like at different places. She showed it at 92Y, had a bit of a life in New York for a little bit. And then 10 years later, I think Chris was actually pushing me like, you should push, because we're working on Killer Makeover still. The movie's been taking a decade. And I'm like, nothing's happened with Video Diary, how can I go on? He's like, well, let's try again with Video Diary. Hit up Christina, she knows what goes on. And I did, and she actually got it screened at Nighthawk in New York. And from there, I think AGFA like kind of heard and they contacted us.
And they're like an offshoot of these guys, right? They're part of the Academy.
I don't know. I'm learning.
Austin, I'm learning too, because we have to license everything.
Yeah, I want to see if it can get into the because it played at Fantastic Fest last year. I'm sad I couldn't go because so many people were there I wanted to meet that I couldn't afford to go see.
But that's how it came back to me, because I looked through their catalog, and I'm like, oh, Lindsay's in here now.
Yeah,
you know?
that's how Christina found it. She was looking
Yeah.
on the cuff. It's like, pretty much you guys are just trolling each other's
Right,
lists after the
exactly.
festival, so that's how we get discovered, so, I
You know,
like it.
gotta share it.
Mhm.
Other questions for Lindsay? Dan?
I just want to know how intentional was like the competition between the cheetah print and the zebra print?
Oh, so fierce, so fierce. It really depends on what color was the background color,
Mhm.
and also if it had like an ombre effect on that or not with the lines. So it was a whole thing for me, because like I think a lot of leopard print currently looks cheap as fuck. So like, and not in the good way. I like the cramps, like full opaque, furry way. So I remember going to a fabric store in Pilsen, and that's where I got all the Lilith outfits from this one fabric and the leopard print. So, I don't know.
It's very Leo.
What?
Very Leo.
It is very Leo. I heard I'm a cusp Leo from my friends. So, it makes sense. Yeah. I give that all to the cramps. And Chris too, who got me into the cramps. Like, one of the first versions of the script had her wearing a cramp shirt. So, I couldn't find a cramp shirt in time.
We can just make those.
Yeah, I know. I should have just made them. Like, luckily Danny had like all those crazy, like the dolls horror shirts, one of my favorite. I'd never seen that one before. And the one that Chris requested specifically was the Day of the Dead, because if you've ever seen Morgan Stewart Comes Home with John Cryer.
I haven't seen
And oh, it's so good. It's John Cryer plays like a rich brat kid who is kicked out of his fancy school to go live with his political parents. And they won't pay attention to him, and he loves horror movies. He has horror movies all over the place, and he meets this one girl while he's trying to get away from his horrible family, who is in line to see George Romero. And you never see George Romero, but you just know they're in line to meet George Romero. And then they make out in a shower with monster masks. So I highly recommend this movie.
Yeah.
It's
You
nothing
gotta
like
see
2.5 Men. So. It's romantic. Morgan Stewart Coming Home. Stewart is STEWART.
It's getting typed in right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris introduced me to that one on VHS. I'm like, what's this? He's like, oh, you would love that. So, this was your movie, and he was right. So, that and Mannequin 2.
A friend that made Mannequin 3, don't we?
Was there a Mannequin 3?
No, one of our other Florida friends made a terrible film called
It wasn't as
Mannequin
good.
3.
We need to screen it. So, I'm
Call 'em
voting
up.
for that. Everyone should be seen. So.
Yeah, Piper.
It seems an appropriate time to ask you what your favorite thrift store VHS find is.
Oh, that's not inappropriate. Let's see.
Oh,
I
it's
used to-
appropriate. It's the
Appropriate.
right
Oh
time.
yeah, it's appropriate.
Now.
Yeah, like not inappropriate at all. Well, My Demon Lover, and you see it in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because I used to work at Salvation Army, so I would get like a bunch of really cool like old
Sweet
kung
Jesus.
fu VHS, and I found My Demon Lover while I was working there, and that is kind of what started steamrolling this project.
The irony.
Yeah.
Salvation Army, Demon Lover.
I know. Oh, and I love Scott Valentine, and I love ROCKULA, and all those. But yeah, definitely My Demon Lover was like the core thrift find. I'm trying to think of anything else. I don't know. I used to work at Obsession, the video store in Chicago, and I got Cafe Flesh, but that's not a thrift store, but it was still a nice memory. So.
It's nerd
Was
heaven.
that inspiration for this film? Since
Oh,
she's-
Out of Obsession?
Yeah.
Ironically not. Like, I worked at Obsession after the movie came out,
Oh.
and I became friends with the owner, Brian, who, if you've ever seen his Instagram, Deadly Prey, he runs and sells all the Ghana hand-painted posters that look so amazing, so, yeah,
Remember
so
the
he used to
posters
own.
inside of the sessions? Oh.
Yeah, you had them on display. It was a little
Yes.
gallery,
Yeah.
And I used to work there one day a week for fun, so.
Nobody ever got paid. Paid in love.
It wasn't important. When the movies were important.
Just like Screen Door.
Yeah, it's all about the cinema.
And we don't, yeah.
So I'm just gonna throw this out there. First of all, her mom worked at Salvation Army, which is like interesting. But I know that you mentioned like grad school like helps, and like punk community coalition like helps really like move things along and get things going. A lot of collaboration. And how do you go about funding?
Being in debt and poor forever.
Yeah, well, it's like, I know that like certain horror directors and stuff have gotten things off the ground by like reaching out to dentists or weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
We are in like prime community. Like we met a neuroscientist or neurologist psychologist.
Who loves
like,
the movie?
Neurosurgeon.
Get me in contact with this person. I'm
Tell-
making a
yeah,
movie.
tell me about Ren.
Well, they specifically love like art and music and like literally anything that will be like in a place that he can take his cute rich wife to. But like,
Like,
Where's this neuroscientist?
I've got his
Solutions in capitalism.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Have any of you guys heard of the filmmaker Albert Pune? He did Radioactive Dreams, the original Captain America. Like, him and I were playing at a festival in LA when the movie came out, and he actually was like, "I'll fly you out there," you know. Like, we just became friends online. It was like way intense. And he was like, you know, I remember very much being like in a weird Vegas, you know, restaurant, I would say, you know, with slot machines and everything. He's going like, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. You have to like, I sat in this room and I just begged and waited for them to pay me, you know, and things like that. So it's like, I know it really takes like that drive and what he was going for, because he was kind of like, you know, he'd been shot at, you know, like kind of like Werner Herzog with his movies, like, you know, he would just do anything. You know, I'm like, I'd rather work in a sound stage. You know, all my stuff is, and there's air conditioning, to me that's the wild. So, but when it comes to like finding money, you know, I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, I have plans for trying to get the next movie out, Killer Makeover, like maybe Vinegar Syndrome will be interested. You know, I used to work at Trauma, and, you know, knowing like, you know, how they work, I don't think they would, you know, fund a movie, but they would distribute. It's like trying to find different people, different things. And I know for me, like, I'm very much like, I can't really be told what to do by anyone, not even my parents. So, you know, so I always get nervous about, you know, going after a dentist perhaps, because they might want to put, you know, in a very Ed Wood fashion, their daughter in the film or something, which really I wouldn't be against, you know, but it's like I definitely roll the dice and kind of take it as it comes. So like, it's not like I'm against it, I just haven't had that yet. I've tried Indiegogo, and the most I've ever been able to make for both films off Indiegogo was like around 2,000. So I feel like that's like that glass ceiling for that. And then the rest has been my own personal funding. You know, like for Video Diary, it was about, you know, $6,000 or $7,000 of my own saved money, plus the 2,000, and then anything after that, you know, in promotion world, you know. And I didn't pay for any. I paid for 2 film festivals, like Slam Dance and Sundance. They didn't take it, but I asked for a waiver for every other film festival, and at least half of them were like, yeah, we like your movie. It was like a good way to slip in and like say, hey, I'm too poor for this, would you like my art? So, and this time around, since my collaborator Pris is very much invested emotionally and financially into the next film, you know, he'll be helping with the film festivals, and we'll be figuring it out from there. Hopefully Fantastic Fests are coming, so, yeah. But yeah, if you know where to get money, let me know. So.
Oh, Ethan, you got some money?
Yeah, what about you? How much you got?
Yeah, it was really interesting how you had it, like, the entire film almost had this timeless kind of aesthetic to it. It's interesting that it was 12 years old, but it kind of seems like it could be made today.
It's weird,
and it still would fit in within it being like in this futuristic context. I was wondering if you had any kind of approach to that when you're like coming up with the aesthetics and curating the aesthetics for it. It's really interesting because it does not seem like it would be from 12 years ago. It does not seem like it would be from today.
Yeah.
You can't really pinpoint the time it was made. I think that's something that really like is a testament to it not being like pigeonholed to a certain period in time, and I think that was really interesting. I was wondering if you like kind of thought of that in advance.
I definitely did, even when like one of the characters would mention the Karate Kid or Rocky or anything. I'm like, well, in their world they still have those movies, so who cares? So, but like I think that was me pulling a lot from Edward Scissorhands, because I remember even as a kid watching him like, is this the 70s? Is this the 90s? Is this the future? Where does he come from? How does he work? You know, and I like that all those questions are unanswered, kind of like you just kind of got to roll with it. And that's something I want to do, and like I kind of did that with Killer Makeover. It's a lot more Lisa Frank, hellish Hellraiser. You know, there's a lot more green screen and bombastic Nickelodeon effects and stuff for that one. Like very much inspired by Annette and Frankie beach party movies and stuff. So, and Dead Alive. So, yeah, and I want to do a movie on Mary Shelley, and that one's very much like I really want to kind of blend like, you know, the Sense and Sensibility Empire outfits with like, you know, punk and 80s no wave and stuff like that. Like, so I'm always constantly in my head like they're morphing like AI constantly. Like,
sounds like Derek Jarman or something.
Yeah. Oh, yes, definitely Derek Jarman. I love me some Jarman.
That's the
June.
That's the punk and the futurists.
Yeah, Jubilee is exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, and then Edward's the second. So more
the makeup was like Liquid Sky.
Yeah, and of course I love liquid sky, so it's obvious. Yeah. It's a little too obvious.
So, I got one more nerdy question.
Yeah.
So, how much of the post do you have a hand in? Are you? sitting there?
Everything.
That's what I figured. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure.
Honestly,
Labor
sound is
questions.
like the only thing I'm not great at. Like I kind of like did the first mix, and you know, honestly, I feel like everyone should kind of ride the sound down a little bit when it's screening. You know, even here, I'm just like, the people will adjust, but like honestly, it should be pushed down a little bit. It's a very fucking loud movie, so with all the
Sounds
shit.
good.
Yeah, get you awake. So.
I'm working the EQ back there. You know?
Yeah, and all of it is honestly Final Cut Pro 7. So
Yeah.
like, there's a little bit of After Effects for a few scenes in green screen, and honestly, for the next movie, Killer Makeover, I just kept it all in Final Cut 7 because it really didn't add.
So you like hit render and go take a cigarette break and come back
Exactly.
and
Yeah, or enjoy.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or I watch Game of Thrones while it's rendering. Something fun. Yeah, that's like the zenith time, is waiting for something to render in the
Yeah,
dark.
looks like it's at 2%. Let's.
Looks like it's 3 days from now. I'll be back in 20 minutes. So it could be anything. Yeah. But yeah, I just live in my room with the computer pretty much. It's, you know, trying to break away from it more. This Killer Makeover movie is like so much green screen that it ended up like adding so many years of post-production.
So that's what I want to.
Yeah.
I might bring you over to the studio and show you the virtual production, because then everything's
Yeah.
caught in camera and it's, you know.
Like Star Wars or something.
Yeah.
So, the good Star Wars.
I have one more fun question.
Yay.
Alright. If you were a cereal, what kind of cereal would you be? And I'm not talking about the kind of cereal you like to eat, but like the kind of cereal
That you
would
embody.
be. That you would be.
If I were the cereal and I would eat myself?
No, just like what cereal are you?
But
Your
not my
cereal,
favorite
what
cereal
are you?
though.
But not your
Alright.
favorite. Not necessarily. Unless you're your
Oh my
favorite.
god, I can't think. Hold on. Too many cereals. Somewhere between Frosted Flakes and Fruity Pebbles.
You're just leaving out Count Dracula, like.
I you know what? I can't bring up. I'm not a poser. I've never had Count Chocolate. I've never had Frankenberry. I had the Fruity Pebbles and the Frosted Flakes, and I think that was it. And Rainy Raisin Bran.
What's the liquid?
What's the liquid?
Yeah.
Oh, milk. 2% hardcore.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, cold.
You're-
So.
Classic. You're a
Yeah.
classic.
Oh my god, have you seen Lisa Frankenstein?
I have seen
Love
Lisa
that.
Frankenstein. I was very excited to see it, and it's directed by Robin Williams' daughter.
No way.
Yeah, and I love it except for the animated sequences that are at the beginning and like kind of near the end, because I don't think they're really well done, but I think the rest of the movie's perfect. So highly recommend it. Ignore the animated sequences. So, yeah. But yeah, I loved how dark it was and colorful.
Go for it.
So you mentioned you did a lot of the audio mixing yourself?
No, I did have sound designers. I did the first mix, you know, like I chose the music, I, you know, got all the audio synced on my own and
Give
everything.
them an idea before you send it out.
Yeah, and it was mixed by Timo Knowles, who, you know, he also did some sound mixing for the next movie, Killer Makeover, so, and, you know, I paid him like, I actually was his TA, I think, for one of his, film classes with Eric Fleschauer, one of our mutual friends, and, you know, he was just like a cool guy who also looked like a young, Billy Corgan. And made mermaid movies, and he just seemed like he knew what he was doing, so, and like, here's $300, please fix this thing, you know, and, the guy who's showing tomorrow, Jimmy Schaus, he's the new sound designer on Killer Makeover. Chemo's still involved, but he lives in Germany, so it's hard to like get him to work on everything, so Jimmy's saving Killer Makeover with his talent.
This is a smooth transition, because I was going to ask you, you want to plug Jimmy's?
Yeah,
Come
Jimmy!
on.
Oh, Jimmy.
So how
Well,
many projects have you and Jimmy worked on together?
it's funny, like, cause we've been roommates, you know, before we even started working on stuff together, but we always knew artistic friends. So Jimmy Schaus, we lived together in some weird artistic loft at some point above a dog daycare, and then that was the first iteration. Then we lived in the same place that, if you know Jody Mack, she used to live there. It was like this house that has like artistic haunted history.
She named this place, by the way.
She did?
Yeah.
Well, there you
So,
go.
can you give me like 10 names that
She chose Screen
Florida-
Door. She didn't choose Jody Mack's Mania.
No, there were some ridiculous ones in there, and I'm like, Screen Door.
Screen Door makes sense. So I like the look. Yeah, so What was the question? I'm lost now.
Oh, Christian, what was our question?
Oh,
We're asking
sound?
about
the
Jimmy's
sound.
screening tomorrow.
Yeah, that.
Oh, the
Jimmy's
screening for
yeah,
Jimmy. Yeah.
yeah.
So Jimmy, I love his work. He used to be in the band Skeleton Warrior and Jimmy Sanchez and the Crystal Balls. Very like Freddie Mercury meets Sparks, you know, with no budget. And you know, now he's like kind of been for the last few years working in film, and it's very abstract. I haven't seen this newest program.
Yeah.
I actually programmed his feature, St. Francis Here's a Noise, which is very much like
Showed in Tampa 5 years ago. I think.
yeah, and now he's showing again. And he showed a few weeks ago in Whammy where they're showing the TV show, because like the West Side Bender was talking about his TV show. It's like co-presenting other features with fellow artists.
Cool.
So yeah, so I highly recommend for him. He'll be here tomorrow. He couldn't
Yeah,
be
we're
here today.
coming
He
up
was
with
feeling ill.
Super 8 program, a 16mm program.
Mhm.
And he's done all the music and sound. And
Yeah, his music's great. He's gonna be doing a lot of music on Killer Makeover too. You know, like filling the stuff that we don't already have from bands. So, and have you guys ever seen the Frank Henenlotter movie Brain Damage?
Yes.
Yeah, whoever said yes. He looks just like the guy in that. So, and the guy a little bit in Basket
He's a little
Case.
skinnier.
Yeah, just a little bit. So, or the guy in Basket Case. They look like each other. So therefore they look like Jimmy. He's one of my favorite people.
Wait, the guy he looks like the guy in the basket?
Oh,
No, he's the guy who carries the basket. So, the one who carries the basket. So, yeah, and I love Jimmy to death, and like I really could not be where I am without him. So, like our last movie, Killer Makeover, like I shot my movie there, but he also shot his movie there with my sets. You know, as part of like a weird meta layer to his symbiopsychotaxi.
you shot one of his
thing.
shorts too, right?
Yeah, I shot. Was it My Daddy Is a Gunman?
Yes.
And
which we showed at Flex.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I was in one of his like a Super 8 shorts or something, just smoking weed in a bathroom. He just documents, you know. So yeah, please come to Jimmy's show. So he's a great guy. I love him.
Any other last questions? There we go. All right.
Yeah, one thing I really liked about this film was the rhythm it had.
Oh, cool.
I was wondering if how much of it was like kind of preconceived or premeditated in terms of having the music coincide with the editing that you had throughout it. I was wondering, did you have like an idea for the music choice before you came to the final cut of it, or did it kind of like flesh itself out while you were in the editing process?
It was kind of like a little bit of both, like because the band I told you about that like didn't want to be a part of it after. You know, Theodora took over for the Shadows Connected to the Light song. When I was writing the script for at least like really writing the meat of it for like a year and a half, I was always imagining that band's like kind of, you know, songs at the soundtrack. It was very operatic, little Kate Bushy, you know, so it was kind of written with that like kind of floating in the background. But when that was ripped away from me, I went to all my other friends and just like, I still do this. I'm like, I have a library of all my friends' music, and I'm always taking more, you know, if you're like cool with me, just use them for free. I'll put it in the movie where it feels right, because I like, you know, I know, like, Jimmy will write some new stuff. I really like stuff that already exists to kind of like give other bands like a little showcase and everything. And it feels like a music video, a movie, so.
So you kind of kept like a reference track throughout it, as far as
Yeah,
what you wanted
moods.
for like certain scenes or
Yeah, and
sequences?
Chris's music was already written. Like the It's Alright to Lose, any Mr. Transylvania stuff. That was like all his solo stuff. Like he would just perform that a cappella, you know, at noise shows, like sometimes naked on.
There's a little bit of super cut of that, right?
Yeah, in the behind the scenes
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So yeah.
That's good stuff.
Mhm.
Sorry, one last thing, right?
Can I play a song in your movies?
Yeah. Let's get some contact info. Send me some songs and I'll put them in the library. So. Yeah, you never know what'll fit.
Yeah.
So I'm always surprised, honestly. It's like just there for fun. So keep it in there. So yeah, and also I'll be out there. I have some of the signed posters I'm selling
Yeah, in the
for
back there.
$20. There's only like 10 left. So and they're limited edition. So because I don't have any more out and I can't work. So
Thanks so much for coming.
thank you for having me.
Oh, it's in the back, yeah.
Is this mine? No, it's a sandbag.
Thanks,
Thanks, Dad.
I used it, but I had to go again.
Cool.